Okay, I'm going to get us started again. Okay. So the nice thing is that we're not going straight into a session. I'm going to do a little survey with everybody. So this will be a little bit more interactive, kind of keep us maybe a little bit more awake after lunch right now. So Matt, if you don't mind showing the Menti survey. Yeah, so essentially what we want to do is we're going to use this as a quick opportunity to do a little data gathering. We want to keep hearing from people as this is going to help continue to inform our work and could be useful for some of our partners as well. So we're going to use a tool called Menti to do this. So let me just explain how this will work. So for both people that are in the room and online, the easiest way to do this is to scan this QR code. And for those who are, thanks, Matt. For those who are in the room, there's actually a card on your table that also has it. So it'll say audience survey at the top and you can scan that. There's a few different cards on the table, but you're looking for the one that says audience survey at the top. So again, you can scan the QR code or you can go open a browser on your phone. That's another option. So you go to www.menti.com and you can type in the code, which is 12954,000. And I'm starting to see in the corner, there's about 4 people already on. Okay, 5, so we're starting to get on there. So we're going to leave it on for just a moment. So again, scan the QR code, or you can use the option where you go to the website, menti.com, and you put in the code 12954,000. Okay, and also, oh, there are different codes on the card. So I would use the code if there, apparently I was told that there's a different number on the card. So I would use the number that is showing on the screen right now. Apologize for that. And Salemi and our volunteer Joe is going around helping people get online here. Going to give another moment or two. Okay, so people say it's a lot easier just to scan the QR code if you can. Okay, so I've got about 22 people on. Okay. All right, I'm going to give it just a few more seconds and then we're going to go to our first question. I'm sorry? Nope. No, it should basically give you a screen that doesn't have any questions yet. We haven't started it. Yeah. It says you're all set. That's what you're going to see. Okay. All right. Well, for those of you who are, we'll see. I mean, if this works, it seems like we've got some folks logged on. We're kind of going to keep going with this. It'll show you as you go through, it'll show you www.menti at the top, and it'll show you the number that you need to use to log on. So why don't we go to the first question? Okay, so the first question is, what comes to mind for you when we say nature-based solution? And what this is a word cloud. So you're just going to put in 2 or 3 words that resonate with you in terms of how you identify nature-based solutions, and we'll see some of that start to come up on the screen as people enter that. Living shorelines. Okay, so we're starting to get some results right now. We've got so we've got natural plants, vegetation, mangroves, restoration, oyster beds. I'm going to let it go on a little bit longer here because I still see some good ideas coming in. And I'm sure, is Chad still here? I said we see that plants are taking a nice role there. Plants and vegetation. Yeah, generally there's the size usually correlates with people putting in similar words. Mix of dune and harder. Okay. Policy. Okay, so we've got an interesting sort of very broad concept about what this can mean. Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to the next one. So the next question is actually going to ask you what you think, what comes to mind when we say hybrid solution? Okay, gray, green. Some variations of gray and gray spelled both ways. Synergistic. So there's some really good words here that talk about that sort of continuum. Riprap, reinforced. I think there's something about sticky wicket in there. Hardscape, natural. Best of both worlds. Okay. So it's interesting because we're seeing some of the same kind of components from the nature-based question, but we're seeing them kind of come to play here in different ways too. So we're still saying plants. So we're still saying plants take a nice center role here. Practical. So I think that's a really great word there. Okay, 79 responses. Okay, we're going to go to the next question. Okay, what other nature-based or hybrid projects are you aware of and what stressors are they addressing? So this is a chance for us to learn from you. So in other words, are there projects that you know of that you would call nature-based or hybrid? And when I say stressors, are they something meant to deal with flooding or particular kinds of flooding? Are they meant to address sea level rise? Are they meant to address heavy rain events? Is it something more geared specifically to heat? So maybe urban tree plans, for instance. Okay, so high wave action, living shorelines, coastal erosion. And feel free, as you know, if there's specific projects in specific locations. Zara Landscaping, Rain Gardens, the oyster bars in Naples. Okay. Great. Okay. So we see a lot with the sand and dune. So dune restoration to protect against storm surge, dune plantings. And yeah, thank you, Matt. And actually, you see a lot of other options coming in. So stream restoration erosion, riprap replacing seawalls, which remember Jenna talked a little bit about some of those kind of components as alternatives. Living shoreline at Treasure Island. Okay, so here's a specific location around the golf course. I like that point, trees or infrastructure. So we'll talk a bit more tree specifically a little bit later this afternoon. Tree canopies and temperature shade. Okay, I'm going to give just another moment here and then we'll move on. Great Rookery Bay. So we do have our Rookery Bay partners in the room, so it's nice to acknowledge their mangrove work. Land acquisition. So that doesn't always get considered as part of nature-based solutions, but certainly should be part of our suite of options. Think carbon first. Yeah. Okay. Florida-friendly landscaping. Okay. Can we move to the next question? Okay, so the way you're going to answer this is to use a scale, and it's going to ask you how you feel about the following. And we're just trying to get a pulse on how people feel about these statements. So do nature-based and hybrid solutions have a place among our local and regional adaptation strategies? And the way that question is structured is to say, amongst the multitude of strategies that we look at, my local or regional government should be actively pursuing including these options among coastal resilience strategies. And then the last one is I'm supportive of local governments directing taxpayer funds towards these strategies. And again, you've got a scale from strongly disagree to strongly agree. Okay, so well, it's interesting that right out of the gate we have some pretty high scores on these. There's a little bit of wiggling going on here. I'm going to give it another few seconds and I'm going to kind of move on because I think more or less we're at where we are going to end up on this question. Okay. Um, let's go. Let's go ahead and go to the next question. What do you perceive as possible challenges associated with adopting nature-based and hybrid solutions? So again, we know that we have people in the room online who have probably very different roles or interactions that they've had around these strategies. So what are some of the things that you want to share about the challenges? Okay, permitting, money, so funding. Okay, engineer buy-in. Okay, space to accommodate. That's something that came up in some of the conversations. Not every place has the space to install and put in certain options. Financial, political will, policy and regulations. So we see funding and permitting coming up quite a lot. Community buy-in. Okay, confidence in science-based solutions, so loss of confidence. So again, I think that's where some of the data that got talked about before is really essential to that piece. Profits, motive from gray infrastructure, permitting, so perception, okay. All right, I'm gonna let this go on a little bit longer because we still have a few last ones. Okay. Okay, so see some kind of core themes here. So we see the idea of lack of funding. Some of it is sort of the political will or the acceptance across sort of lots of sectors, including sort of homeowners and government-based. Okay, old habits, permitting. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Okay, so this is my last question for you, or no, I have two final questions that are fairly related. So this is to help us understand again, what is it that people need to sort of understand or sort of assess these options in a more robust way. So what resources or information would help you better understand or decide to support or pursue nature-based and hybrid solutions? Okay, so cost, relative resiliency, sources of funding, okay, education. So scientific publications, the scientific data to support these options. I like that example of what other states or countries have implemented. That's partially why we decided to look at these case studies with everybody, is to show people what these things look like when they're implemented on the ground. Support from local experts on proposed projects. So we've got a little bit more on the grant funding side. Different opportunities and how to pursue. Case studies that have been successful, cost benefit analysis. So I see a lot on the cost side. So I think that's really important. Better understanding of real outcomes. Better understanding of permitting. An interactive resource library. More conferences like this one that are then shared and followed up on. Wave attenuation. Okay, so what wave attenuation looks like in front of and behind the solution. An interactive website or something that can show you what the final results will look like. Documentaries. So different ways to sort of communicate effectiveness. So on lots of different fronts, and also understanding what resources they are to do these projects. So I think we're going to move on to our final question. which is this is for us, okay, this is for us specifically, just to help us understand as we continue to put out resources and continue to do this work, what kinds of topics do you think the Conservancy can potentially address in our communications, our programming around these solutions that you would find helpful? And this also helps us think about, for those of you that know the Conservancy as an organization, what might make sense in our role for us to be able to talk about in our communications and our programming. Okay, native plant lists. Okay, highlights on actual case studies with parallels to Southwest Florida. Okay, more in the local case studies. So it seems like there's a lot about really understanding these projects, how they're working in different places. Oh, connection between resilience and other issues like water quality. So I think that's something that Chad really focused on in his stormwater project. We'll get a little bit more of that this afternoon in our next session. Mini workshops, evaluations. So again, speaking to that really importance of monitoring. Monitoring. Okay, success stories. Details for do-it-yourself, contractors. Okay. Creating connections with various stakeholders, policy changes at the state level. Okay, we'll leave this up for just a couple more. Okay, active or implemented hybrid solutions. Okay. All right, we'll wait for a couple more of these to come in. Okay, I think we've sort of hit our point. So I'm going to thank you for helping us do a little data gathering because again, this is our climate perspective is relatively new. We continue to sort of refine our directions, and it's really helpful to have this data to sort of understand, how we continue to shape that. So I'm going to have us go. We're going to take a quick. Let's see, what time is it? I think we're going to take a quick 3-minute break and then we're going to start our next session. So just so everyone knows what to expect for the next session. So the next session is where we were able to bring in virtual speakers. So these are speakers that are going to talk about case studies in some places that are a little farther away in the state. So we've got North Miami, we've got West Palm area, we've got Cedar Key, and I can't quite remember the fourth location, but I will talk about this when I do the introductions. But we're going to take just a couple minutes, so thanks very much.